Polygroups, I tell you, it's fantastic. Polygroups, masking, deformation, three very, very powerful palettes, right? We have UV maps. We can actually change the UV map size. Let's assume this has UVs. In fact, we can check right now. Let's do this really quickly. We'll go to our texture map. We're going to go to create. Now, if this has UVs, you can check very simply by clicking on new from UV check. All right. And when it turns red like this, oh no, it's a mess. It's a mess. So this doesn't even have UVs. Now we can create UVs. That's simple. It's not a problem. But this one of the quickest ways to find out whether or not you have UVs on the model or not. Texture map, new from UV check. If I had UVs set up with this correctly, and we will do it in the next one, with the next model we're going to work on in the next module, it will have UVs and you'll see the actual separate islands. But for now, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and click this off, just so I don't have to see that. By the way, we can when we go for poly painting, and that's something else we're going to get into for quite a bit. A lot of times we're going to do the texture map, and then we're going to, whatever we paint on the model, when we click this one, new from poly paint, whatever we've painted on our model is then painted onto the UVs in this area. You'd be able to see, if we actually had UVs and this was painted, you'd be able to see all the beautiful colors in this UV map and the way the UVs had been set up. We don't have any on this one for now, so that's fine. But with the UV map, we can go ahead and we can delete the UVs. We can use UV Master in. There's a Z plugin called UV Master. Let me see, there it is, UV Master. So we can create UVs in ZBrush. I don't tend to use it very much. I don't find it's as crisp and clear and accurate where I want it to be. So I don't tend to use UV Master, but you can use it in ZBrush. But anyway, from here I can actually set whatever size maps I want it to be, whether it's 1024, whatever. I can do custom, or I can just do 512, 1024, 2046, 4090, 2048, and 4096. These buttons will instantly let you click and move, make them as a selection. All right. Normal maps, displacement maps, vector maps. This is where we will look to create such maps when we're done, sculpting a model. We aren't anywhere near that point yet. Display properties. Let me show you what display properties does. Go ahead and Control-Shift-Click. So we've got just the bottom of our drum, and as you can see through the model because it literally doesn't have any interior polygons. So of course, it's giving us a blank space. With the display properties, if you just click double, there you go. You can now see into the model. Technically, it's really not the inside of the model. There is no inside to it, but I can tell you there have been many times that some of the students, when they're working, when they don't have double on, it gets a little confusing for them. So that's one of the quickest ways you can get that fixed. You just go to double and you're fine. All right. You don't have to go back to it again. You will if you have to reload, or you close ZBrush and you have to reload a new scene, you'll have to go back to that. But it's one of those things you'll get used to. Unified skins, we're not going to get into right now. Initialize, that's going to be for something a little bit later. So we're not going to get into that either. We have the import buttons. We're not going to get into that. And the export, it's not what you think. We'll talk about that later on. All right. Let's go ahead and look at some of the brushes and everything. In fact, let's go right now. Let's start a completely new mesh, a new model, rather than using this. To do that, all you have to do is click on this button right here, Simple Brush. If I just left click on it, it says, uh-oh, the active form is currently in edit transformation. It's basically saying, do I want to keep what I've got or just wipe it? And I just want to wipe it. It's okay. All right, it's okay. I'm going to click it. And in this case, I'll go for a sphere 3D. I'm going to left click, drag, hit T, so I'm in edit, and I can hit Shift F to turn that off. So there we go. All right. By the way, when you're using the simple brushes in ZBrush and you create this, the very next thing you should learn to do, this should be like in rule number 1, Once you've got this on screen, click this button right here, Make Polymesh 3D. All right, that makes it so it's sculptable and it's workable, and it gives you some functionalities that are not there if you don't click that. So make sure if you're going to use the simple brush, as soon as you drag it on screen, hit the Make Polymesh 3D. All right. So let's take a look on the left side, some of what this is. Now this is a standard brush. By that, it says, okay, well, what does that mean? So let me just click and drag. Well, that's what that means. It means I can start kind of sculpting and deforming the model. All right. I'm going to do Control Z. It's too low polygon. If I hit Shift F, it's too low poly. So let's do Control D, Control D, Control D. Okay. By the way, if I hide this, this actually will expand your screen. See this little divider? It'll actually come up. It says divider. Because of my recording space that I have to record on, you can't see the polygon number. So I have to do this, but you can see as it's now 522,000 polygons. That's how many polygons that has. That's fair enough for us to go ahead and sculpt with and work on, etc. Okay? Shift F to hide that. Again, by the way, Control Shift, and I can click and drag, space. There we go. Again, you see, because this is a new subtool, I have to go back down to Display Properties and double so I can see into the model. Okay. All right. Control Shift, just click in the background, brings this back. So now, if I were to do something like this, oh wow, much smoother. You see that? It's not graded. It doesn't look all jiggy-jaggy. That's because we have enough polygons to support the deformations we're creating by creating this new shape. That's one of the things you need to maintain. If you're ever sculpting and you're not getting, the polygons you're looking to get, etc., it's because it's too low polygon. When you start seeing something, a lot of pixelation as you're sculpting, that's when it says, okay, time to do a Control D to subdivide, okay? I tend to not subdivide until I need it. For this, just so you can see what's going on, but I can tell you, I tend to do entire characters, and by the time I'm done, maybe I've got about 1.5 million polygons. I don't tend to go 30 million polygons and 50 million polygons. I have done a couple of cinematic models for a couple of movies where I did go up to, I think, about 40 million polygons, and ZBrush handles it just as easily as this. It rotates it just as fine. Now, by the way, I've actually done a lot of crap to this, and it doesn't look good, and that's fine. I'm just doodling around, but that's okay. I can do a Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, or I can use this button right up here. This button here is the ZBrush timeline. I can scroll it back and forth. Okay. In fact, I'll hit Shift F. So you can see I can scroll it back to even before I subdivided it. See that? All right. The timeline is a fascinating tool. I haven't really appreciated it as much as I have in the last few years because I've gotten used to, a lot of times I'd sculpt it. I know I'm going to go ahead and just, flatten it out and everything. I don't care about the timeline. And then I started working on some figurine models, and I realized, oh man, I need to be able to keep that. And by keeping the timeline, I can move back at any point. And believe me, the timeline can go up, I don't know how many frames, and I've gone back, I don't know how many steps. And Control Z, as long as you've got this timeline on it automatically, Control Z is infinite undos, or basically it's this timeline. This is the infinite undos, all right? One of those things that it's good to have. If, let's say, we'll go back to, say, this point, before I start doing anything, and now I start sculpting on it, all right? I have now created a new timeline. You notice that? All those other steps I just previously did disappeared because it's basically saying, oh, well, I'm going back to an earlier state. I don't want what came after that originally. This is now the new model. So I can now, keep doing this, for instance, and then go, oh, yeah, you know what? Oh, I didn't want that. Let's just go back and start fresh. Okay, and then now whatever I'll do on this is now the new timeline. See? Just erased it out. Comes in handy. Make sure you remember that one.